the will reading, my sons blocked my chair. "You're not in the will, Mom." Then I opened my folder. "You're not in the will, Mom." Ethan didn't whisper it. He didn't hesitate either. He just stood there, half a step in front of the chair, like it belonged to him now. I looked at the chair, then at my sons, then back at the chair. "Just sit outside for a minute," Mark said quietly, not meeting my eyes. "We'll explain everything after." After. I kept my hand on my purse, not because I was nervous, because I was steadying myself. My name is Margaret Calder. I'm 68 years old, and until that moment, I'd never been told where I could and couldn't sit by the children I raised. The room was too polished. Glass table, leather chairs, framed certificates that meant something to someone. A young assistant behind a laptop froze when the air changed, like she could feel it too. "This is just a formality," Ethan said, already impatient. "Let's not make it awkward." I nodded once. "Small, polite. I received a letter," I said, "from this office, with today's date." The assistant glanced up. "Mrs. Calder, this meeting is for immediate family of the deceased." Immediate family. Ethan jumped in fast. "Our aunt didn't have children, so legally this goes through us." The word legally landed hard. Clean, sharp. Mark cleared his throat. "Mom, maybe just give us a few minutes." I looked at him. Really looked. 39 years old, grease still under his nails sometimes. Always meaning well. Always stepping back. "I'm not here to interrupt," I said. "I'm here because Lydia asked me to be." That stopped the room. Ethan turned fully toward me. "This isn't about feelings." I didn't answer right away, because once my life had been about practical things too. I married Paul Calder at 23. We were together 27 years. He was steady, quiet in the way that holds things together. He fixed what broke and never made a show of it. He carried the practical weight so I could carry the people. He collapsed in our kitchen one Tuesday afternoon. Heart failure. No warning, no goodbye. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was already over. Ethan was in his 20s then, confident, quick to step in. "I'll handle things, Mom," he'd said. "You shouldn't have to deal with this." And I let him. Grief makes you tired. Tired people hand over control. Back in the conference room, the silence stretched thin. I reached into my purse, pulled out the folder. Blue, thin, quiet, not dramatic, just paper. "Could you give this to the attorney, please?" I asked the assistant. She hesitated, looked at Ethan. "What's that?" Ethan asked, frowning. "Something Lydia and I did a long time ago," I said, "before anyone got busy." The assistant stood and walked toward the back office. The door closed behind her. Mark swallowed. "Mom, what did you give her?" I didn't answer, because Lydia had said something to me once, when her memory first started slipping and the house got quieter. "People show up late when there's something to take," she'd said. Not bitter, just honest. She moved in with me when she couldn't manage alone. I cooked, I cleaned, I slept light in case she wandered. Ethan visited once that year. Mark twice. "Too busy," they said. The door opened. The attorney stepped out, folder in hand. He didn't smile. "Mrs. Calder," he said, "may I speak with you privately?" Ethan straightened. This is a closed session. The attorney didn't look at him. This concerns a filing from over a decade ago, he said, and it changes the order of things. Mark's face drained of color. I stood. My legs felt steady. That surprised me. As I followed the attorney down the hall, Ethan said behind me, "Mom, what did you do?" I didn't turn around, because whatever they thought they had handled was already out of their hands. She doesn't need to be here for this part. We've already taken care of it. I heard Ethan say that through the half-closed door while I stood in the hallway. Not whispered, not lowered, just said, like a fact. The attorney asked me to wait while he reviewed the document. Said it would only take a moment. I nodded and stepped back, but the door didn't close all the way. That's how I heard it. Mark said my name once. Ethan, maybe. Ethan cut him off. This is business. Don't make it emotional. Business. That word again. I leaned against the wall and looked down the hallway. Framed photos. Smiling partners. Awards I didn't recognize. Everything in that building looked permanent, like decisions were made there and never questioned again. That's how Ethan liked things. After Paul died, everything became handled. The bank, the house, the insurance. Ethan showed up with folders and confidence. "I've got this, Mom. You don't need to worry." Mark followed his lead. Always did. Fixed what broke. Changed light bulbs. Kept quiet when Ethan spoke. And I let it happen, because grief makes you tired. And tired people don't fight for control. The door finally opened. "Mrs. Calder," the attorney said, softer now. "Thank you for waiting." Ethan stood immediately. "So we're clear." The attorney didn't answer him. "Margaret," he said, using my first name for the first time. "Please come in." Ethan frowned. "This really isn't necessary." "It is," the attorney said. Mark looked between us. "What's going on?" I followed the attorney into his office. He laid the folder flat on the desk and opened it carefully. "This document was filed 12 years ago," he said. "Properly witnessed. Properly notarized." I nodded. "It hasn't been revoked," he added, "which means it overrides any later revisions." He looked at me. "Do your sons know about this?" "No," I said. "They assumed." He exhaled slowly. "That explains a lot." When we walked back into the conference room, the air had changed. The assistant sat straighter. Mark's hands were clenched. Ethan was standing again, arms crossed, but it didn't look confident anymore. The attorney didn't sit. "Before we proceed," he said, "there's been a development." Ethan interrupted. "We're on a schedule." The attorney looked at him. "Not anymore." Silence. Then he turned to me. "Mrs. Calder is not only entitled to be present, she is central to this process." Ethan laughed once. Sharp. "That doesn't make sense." "It does," the attorney said. "Once you understand the timeline." Mark leaned forward. "What timeline?" The attorney opened the folder again. 12 years ago, he said, your aunt executed a mutual will with your mother. Ethan's smile disappeared. "A what?" "A mutual will," the attorney repeated. "Legally binding. Filed valid." Mark blinked. "You and Aunt Lydia did that?" "Yes," I said. Ethan shook his head. "She changed it last year." "She attempted to," the attorney said, "but this agreement overrides later changes unless revoked jointly," which it wasn't. Ethan looked at me. You knew about this? Yes. You never told us. You never asked. That landed. Mark swallowed. So what does this mean? The attorney didn't rush it. It means the estate belongs to your mother. The room froze. All of it? Ethan asked. All of it, the attorney said. Mark went pale. Ethan took a step toward me. This isn't funny, he said. I'm not laughing, I replied. The assistant shifted. Someone cleared their throat. A phone rang somewhere and stopped. Ethan ran his hand through his hair. We've been handling everything. Yes, I said. You have. Mark finally spoke. Why didn't you tell us about the will? I looked at him, not Ethan. Because when your aunt needed help, you were busy. That's not fair, Ethan snapped. Isn't it? The attorney cleared his throat. As executor, I'm required to proceed according to the valid will. Mark asked quietly. So what happens to us? I didn't answer right away. The attorney did. You are not beneficiaries. Ethan's voice rose. This isn't right. It is lawful, the attorney said. Mark stood. Mom, I didn't know. I believed him. Ethan scoffed. You never know. Mark turned on him. Because you don't tell me anything. The tension snapped. I didn't bring that folder to punish anyone, I said. I brought it because your aunt trusted me. Ethan leaned close. You're really doing this? Yes, I said. After everything. After everything. Mark stayed behind when the room cleared. Can we talk later? He asked. Yes, I said. We can. Ethan was already gone. I watched him leave and realized something quietly. This wasn't the end. But it was the moment things stopped being handled without me. You embarrassed us in there. Do you have any idea what people are going to think? Ethan said it the second the elevator doors closed. Just him, Mark, and me, in a small metal box that suddenly felt tighter than it should have. I didn't answer right away. The elevator started moving down. Slow, deliberate. You blindsided us, Ethan continued. You let us walk into that room looking stupid. Mark shifted beside him. Ethan, maybe not now. No, now is exactly the time, Ethan snapped. Then he turned back to me. You knew what you were doing. I looked at the numbers lighting up above the door. 3, 2. I knew what I had, I said. That's not the same thing. The elevator dinged. The doors slid open. People were waiting to get in, so Ethan stepped aside, jaw tight, and we walked out into the lobby like nothing had happened. Outside, the air was colder than I expected. Ethan stopped near the steps. We need to talk. We are talking, I said. Not like this, he replied. You can't just pull something like that and pretend it's fine. Mark rubbed his face. Mom, why didn't you tell us about the will? I turned to him. When would you have listened? That landed heavier than I intended. Mark opened his mouth, then closed it again. Ethan scoffed. This isn't about listening. This is about trust. I met his eyes. You mean control? His jaw clenched. You're twisting things. No, I said. I'm naming them. He stepped closer. You let us plan. You let us believe. I let you assume, I said. There's a difference. Mark finally spoke. Ethan, stop. This isn't helping. Ethan ignored him. You think Lydia just gave you everything because you were nice to her. I didn't raise my voice. I think she gave it to the person who showed up. That did it. She wasn't thinking clearly at the end, Ethan said sharply. You know that. Mark turned to him. That's not fair. It's relevant, Ethan shot back. Then to me, people are going to question this. Lawyers will question it. I nodded once. They can. Ethan laughed, short and humorless. So that's it. You're ready to fight your own sons. I looked at him. Really looked. 42 years old, confident, angry, afraid in a way he'd never admit. I'm not fighting you, I said. I'm standing where I should have been standing a long time ago. Mark said quietly, Ethan, maybe we should slow down. Ethan rounded on him. Don't start acting like you weren't counting on this too. Mark stiffened. I didn't know about the will. That's convenient, Ethan said. Stop, I said, just once. Calm, firm. They both looked at me. I'm tired, I said, not just today. I'm tired of being talked over. I'm tired of being handled. Ethan shook his head. You don't get it. I get it very well, I replied. You thought this was already decided. He stared at me, then said the thing I'd been waiting for. We're going to contest it. Mark froze. Ethan, you don't get to just take everything, Ethan continued. We'll have it reviewed. Lydia wasn't competent at the end. People know that. I felt something tighten in my chest, but my voice stayed steady. Be careful. Is that a threat? He asked. It's a warning, I said, about what you're willing to say about someone who's no longer here to defend herself. Mark looked between us. Ethan, don't. Ethan ignored him. You think the court's just going to accept this? I think the truth holds up better than assumptions, I said. He laughed again. We'll see. He turned and walked toward his car. Mark stayed behind. I didn't know he'd say that, Mark said quietly. I know, I replied. He looked down at the pavement. I know I haven't been around like I should have been. I didn't rush to comfort him. That's not new, he nodded. I'm not trying to take anything from you. I'm not trying to give anything away, I said. He looked up. So what happens now? Now, I said, we let things unfold. That night, my phone rang after dinner. Unknown number, I answered. Mrs. Calder, a man's voice said. This is David Rourke. I represent your son, Ethan Calder. I closed my eyes, just for a second. Yes, I said. We'd like to request a meeting, he continued. There are concerns regarding the circumstances under which the will was executed. I'll speak through my attorney, I said. There was a pause. You understand this could get complicated. I understand, I replied. That's why I kept records. He cleared his throat. We'll be in touch. When I hung up, the house felt very quiet. I made tea I didn't drink. I sat at the table and looked at the place where Lydia used to sit, humming to herself while I cooked. She always hummed when she was content. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mark. I'm sorry. I didn't know he'd go this far. I stared at it for a moment, then typed back. I know. Decide who you want to be in this. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I will. The next morning, my attorney called. They're filing a challenge, he said, claiming undue influence and mental incompetence. I wasn't surprised. What do you need from me? I asked. Anything that shows Lydia was clear-minded when the will was signed, he replied. Letters, notes, journals. I smiled, just a little. I have those, I said. She wrote every day. There was a pause. Then that helps a great deal. After the call, I stood in my kitchen and realized something important. Ethan thought this was about money. Mark thought it was about guilt. But for me, it had finally become about something else, being done with letting other people decide how much space I was allowed to take. And whatever happened next, I wasn't stepping back again. If you side with her, don't expect me to call you my brother anymore. That's what Ethan said to Mark on speakerphone. I heard it because Mark hadn't realized the call connected yet. There was a pause, long enough to feel heavy. Then Mark said, "I'm not siding with anyone. I'm just not lying." The line went dead. Mark sat at my kitchen table with his hands wrapped around a mug he hadn't touched. He'd come by early before work. No warning, no excuse. "He's serious," Mark said. "He's really going through with it." "I know," I replied. "He hired a firm downtown," Mark added. "The aggressive one." "I know," I said again. Mark looked up. "How are you so calm?" "I'm prepared," I said. "There's a difference." That afternoon, my attorney spread documents across his desk. Clean stacks, labeled tabs. "Your sister's medical records show no incompetence at the time of signing," he said. "That's good." I nodded. "Her journals help even more," he added. "They're dated, coherent, personal." "She wrote every day," I said, "even when she forgot names." He flipped a page. "The challenge will argue undue influence." I didn't flinch. "She trusted me," I said. "That's not influence." He smiled faintly. "The court usually agrees." Outside his office, Mark waited. "So?" he asked. "We're ready," I said. He exhaled. "Ethan's furious." "That's not new," I replied. Mark hesitated. "He wants me to sign an affidavit, saying I believe Lydia wasn't clear near the end." I stopped walking. "And I won't," Mark said. "I can't." I looked at him. "You understand what that means?" "Yes," he said. "I lose him." I didn't soften my voice. "You might," he nodded. "I already lost something else." "What?" "Respect for myself," he said quietly. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No drama, no television angles, just wood benches and a judge who looked like she didn't have time for nonsense. Ethan sat at the other table, alone. His attorney whispered into his ear. Ethan nodded too quickly. My attorney stood, calm, clear. "The will was executed legally," he said. "The decedent was competent. The intent is documented." Ethan's lawyer stood next. "We believe the decedent was manipulated," he said, "that her declining health made her vulnerable." The judge looked at him. "Evidence?" He gestured vaguely. "Family testimony." "Which family?" the judge asked. There was a beat. "My client," the lawyer said. The judge nodded once. "Proceed," they called Mark. He walked to the stand slowly. "Do you believe your aunt was incompetent when she signed the will?" the lawyer asked. Mark swallowed. "No." Ethan stiffened. "Are you saying she was fully aware of her decisions?" "Yes," Mark said. "She was." Ethan stood halfway. "Mark," the judge raised a hand. "Sit down," Mark continued. "She knew exactly who showed up. She knew who didn't." Silence followed. My attorney submitted the journals. Dates, handwriting, words. The judge read quietly, then looked up. "I see no grounds here," she said. Motion dismissed. Ethan didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. Outside the courtroom, Ethan finally said it. "You planned this." I shook my head. "I prepared for it." You turned him against me, he snapped. I didn't, I said. You did that yourself. He laughed once. Hollow. So that's it, for the estate, I said. Yes. And for us, I looked at him. That depends on what you do next. He walked away without answering. Mark stood beside me. I'm sorry it came to this. It came because it had to, I replied. That night, my phone buzzed again. A message from Ethan. You win. I didn't reply, because this wasn't a game. And the lesson had already been delivered. If you contest this after I'm gone, you'll get nothing. Not $1. That's what my attorney said out loud while Ethan sat across the desk, staring at the floor. Not yelling, not threatening, just reading the clause exactly as it was written. Ethan finally looked up. You'd really do that? I already did, I said. We were in the attorney's office again. Same chairs, same table, different balance of power. This isn't about punishment, I continued. It's about boundaries. Ethan let out a sharp breath. So I lose my aunt. I lose the estate. And now you're cutting me out too. You cut yourself out, I replied, long before any paperwork. Mark was sitting beside me this time. Quiet, present. I'm not contesting anything, he said. I told you that. Ethan turned on him. Of course you didn't. You never do. Mark didn't rise to it. I'm done letting you decide what I stand for. That was new. Ethan stood abruptly. So that's it. I'm the villain now. No, I said. You're the consequence. He scoffed, grabbed his jacket, and walked out without another word. The door closed softly behind him. Mark stayed. I don't expect forgiveness, he said, but I want to do better. I looked at him. Then start by being honest with yourself. He nodded. I will. After that, things moved quickly. Accounts were transferred. Titles updated. Locks put in place. I created a trust, not for my sons, for someone else. A young woman named Claire, my cousin's granddaughter. She used to come by every other Sunday with groceries I didn't ask for, and stories from her job at the library. She never once asked about money. She just showed up. When I told her, she shook her head. You don't owe me anything. I know, I said. That's why I chose you. She cried quietly. I handed her a tissue. We laughed at the same time. Life has a way of making space once you stop carrying things that aren't yours. Ethan didn't call again. Weeks passed. Then months. Mark came by more often, fixed the porch step, replaced a light fixture, stayed for dinner without checking his phone every 5 minutes. One afternoon, he said, I didn't realize how much we took from you. I answered honestly. Neither did I until I stopped. That night, I sat alone at my kitchen table with a cup of tea that stayed warm long enough to finish. The house was quiet, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It felt earned. I thought about Lydia, about Paul, about the years I spent making myself smaller so other people could feel bigger. I don't do that anymore. Ethan learned his lesson the hard way. That entitlement doesn't survive truth. That control disappears the moment someone stops handing it to you. Mark learned his lesson differently, that showing up late is still better than never showing up at all. And me, I learned that silence isn't strength unless you choose it. Now I choose when to speak, when to give, when to stop. And that, finally, belongs to me.